Hello, welcome to another UTS Startups Confessions. Now, we are in a very special location, which I'm going to share with you here on the screen. So behold, this is our normal location over at UTS. And for those that don't know, there's this wonderful kind of precinct forming around UTS and around Stone and Chalk where we are today. So this is our normal space, and running down here, you can see on the right-hand side, you've got the new Afterpay building is going in there, the brewery yard, you've got the Dex's buildings going in, you've got the new Atlassian building going up. That zoom was a little bit creepy, the slow zoom. But running down here, you go one block further and you end up at the Scale-Up Hub, which is the only, I'm correct, it's the only subsidised office space for scale-ups and startups in New South Wales. So if you need this kind of office to yourself, it's the only place where you get government subsidy for it. And not only that, but it's stunning. Like, look at this footage. This I've never seen a more beautiful lobby or beautiful stairs up to where we are now. So you'll see through these doors, and we'll get a little tour of what's inside in a second. But it's just wonderful to see. Like, this 10 years ago, if someone came up and said, hey, there's going to be 8,000 metres of subsidised space full of wonderful people like yourself, Daniel, I would, not believe it. But behold, here it is. And this, the quality of facilities and the quality of people and what is going in around this precinct is the reason we are here today instead of our normal place down at UTS, because it's just wonderful to see this coming together and to be neighbours with this kind of thing, and to be hopefully over at UTS feeding the funnel into more wonderful people to be part of the Scale-Up Hub and other things going on around here. So we'll pause there, but a round of applause, please, for Stone and Chalk for hosting us today. Thank you very much. That brings me to yourself, Daniel. So tell me a little bit about Bridge, and that'll kind of be backstory for where we kick off.
So I entered Stone and Chalk as CFO of a listed software company called Bridge, and we made software for the government social welfare sector. We moved into this building after IPOing on the stock exchange as a little reward for ourselves. And at the time, this building was brand new. We were one of the first tenants in this building.
Nice. Okay, so had it all to yourself. And Bridge obviously had the wonderful success through the IPO, and you probably just walked away at that point very happy with yourself. But it then immersed you into this kind of environment, correct?
That's right, and being in contact in a close-knit community of entrepreneurs, scale-ups in the tech industry really got me thinking about what I wanted to do with my career. And so my background into entrepreneurship is, one could say, irregular. So I actually started in law school, and probably the biggest chunk of my career was as a stock market analyst, covering consumer companies, everything from Coles, Woolworths, Domino's, JB Hi-Fi, Harvey Norman, you name it. But after almost a decade of doing that, I thought it was time for a change. I had achieved the industry accolades I'd sought to achieve. So I became a tech CFO, and I did 3 stints in various tech companies as CFO, including Bridge, as well as a big data role at a buy now, pay later. But being in this community and seeing other entrepreneurs chase their dreams really got me thinking about whether or not that was a step that I wanted to take. And I just happened to have the opportunity to do so.
So despite what you saw, you did it. Tell us a bit about that. So firstly, what is FlavourIQ?
Okay, so FlavourIQ is an AI that uses flavor science to find the specific coffee or wine that best matches everyone's personal and unique flavor preferences. And no two people's flavor preferences are alike. So you wouldn't walk into Dan Murphy's and be confused by the tens of thousands of bottles of wine in front of you. We would help you choose the one that best suits your unique taste palette. You would no longer need to Google which coffee beans you should buy for your home espresso maker. We would match you to the one that's perfect for your individual taste preferences. That's FlavourIQ.
Okay, so like if someone walked in off the street and said, I'm a random guy doing this startup, you'd say, okay, good on you. But this is actually research-backed and based out of a centre at CSIRO, correct?
That's right. Our science partners are the CSIRO's Food Innovation Centre, and for those that don't know, the CSIRO is Australia's national science agency. So behind a very consumer-friendly user platform, we actually have hard science, including a battery of professional taste testers, chemists, and sensory scientists who evaluate the coffees and help us design our algorithm to match everyone's unique flavor preferences.
Okay, so how did that happen? Like, a lot of people wouldn't understand how Cyro would normally work, but how does someone like yourself become the leader of a project like that?
So my relationship with Cyro runs quite deep. I was a mentor, I still am a mentor in their On Prime Accelerator program, and I've been doing that for close to 10 years. And along the way, I'd met many fantastically gifted scientists. And so it was access to that expertise combined with a bit of inspiration from myself to create FlavourIQ. And it was the marrying up of that in one of CSIRO's matched grant programs that led to FlavourIQ, and they're the contributors to all of the flavor science because it turns out flavor science is pretty complicated. It's not something that you can just watch a YouTube on, and so I rely on their expertise for that side of the business.
Well, until now. Welcome, YouTube audience. Because so it's a nice thing to think about in terms of the payoff of mentoring. Like, obviously the benefits that you give people should be a reward in themselves, but it can result in things like this, where suddenly you have access to the leading expertise in this area in the world potentially, and the opportunity for matched funding and interesting support in starting a new company. It sounds pretty good.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's definitely fantastic. And I think there's a lot to be said about deep tech and its pathway to commercialization, because that quite often is the most difficult thing. The technology or the science definitely works. It's finding the pathway to commercialization, and being a mentor for 10 years certainly lends plenty of practice to doing that. So that's an additional benefit from being involved in these programs.
I mean, it also kind of demystifies it a little bit. When people say deep tech, you think something that kind of disappears for 10 years and maybe becomes something, maybe doesn't, and no one understands it. But in your case, like, would you describe it that way, or would you describe the technology as something more accessible?
It's definitely quite accessible because there is a very clear pathway to its application in real life. And when I describe its use cases, I think most people that buy wine understand or can identify with the feeling of being confused. You walk into a Dan Murphy's, there's all this stuff, you know, and it must be very worrying for the CFO of a Dan Murphy store. Certainly I would be if I was CFO of a Dan Murphy store, how I've paid this much capital or this much working capital in to stock all of these items to give you the range that consumers say they want. Yet people come in and just buy the same 5 bottles over and over. And if you look carefully, some of the bottles have a ring of dust on the shoulder of the bottle because it hasn't been sold for so long. So these are the inefficiencies that FlavourIQ is designed to solve, and it's a very clear application of something that is otherwise considered deep tech or deep science.
Also, there's advertising that no one would object to either, you know?
And I think all of the best, I mean, we could call it advertising, but at the end of the day, it's a better way to do something that we've always done, right? So if you think about food and beverage companies, they try and put bright colors and clear photographs on their labels to try and sell you a product. And that's because as consumers, it's difficult for us to know what to choose because the way flavor is described and understood is different for each person. Certainly if I was to say something was savory, it would mean very different things to the people in this room and with different sort of diets and so on. And so this is what FlavourIQ is designed to do, is to get past that. So I think a parallel example I often give is this, is, you know, Spotify uses AI to find music that you yourself, for your preferences, like to listen to, not by the title of the song, but by how the song actually sounds. And so with food and beverage now, because we don't have the ability to understand flavors, it's almost like choosing a new song just on the title only, because you're looking at the label of the food and buying just based off that. So this is what FlavourIQ is designed to solve. And I think in that way, it's not so much advertising in the sense that we're not trying to sell you something that you otherwise wouldn't enjoy. We're trying to better match what you enjoy.
So I don't need the made-up little awards thing saying 5 stars at some contest no one's heard of.
Very true.
Okay. So that was 2022 that this started. Talk us through the launch and where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm a first-time entrepreneur with that background. I've been in and around different tech businesses and so on for a long time, but seeing it done even up close is different to doing it. And so a good amount of time at the beginning of this process was just understanding how to turn an idea into at least some sort of viable pathway to creating a business. So the first few months was just researching, okay, so I have this idea, what is the exact step I want customers to go through or suppliers to go through in order to connect the demand and the supply. And so that took quite a long time. It took quite a long time. I began by describing the idea holistically to people. And while people understood the idea, it's still difficult to break down into individual pieces that then could be created. So I eventually created those pieces myself, or broke it down into those pieces myself, worked with a fantastic, talented designer and software development team to bring what you see now on FlavourIQ.com to life.
Okay, and well received by people so far?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't checked for a couple of days now, but at last count, we'd had well over 300 people do the quiz and get recommended a coffee. And right now we have more than 30 on our platform from as far afield as India, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Africa, and the like, because we want to be able to bring you a surprise, a delight, a moment of surprise and delight when you experience something that you've never tried before, but you also really enjoy. And so I guess in many ways, intuitively, we all go through this experience. No one's born with this really broad flavor palette. At some point in your life, you experienced this spice for the first time or that flavor for the first time. And some of those moments could have been really special if it's something that you really enjoyed. And there are more of those moments. There are tropical fruits like mangosteens and rambutan that a lot of people haven't had. Those moments are still out there. We try and create these surprise and delight moments for you.
Okay, you're making people thirsty and hungry, I'm pretty sure. We'll just wrap up with a couple of questions and we'll go into the private session. But how has this environment influenced how this has worked out?
Yeah, so for me, this environment has been instrumental for me because I've come from a professional career, at an investment bank as a stock market analyst. It's very structured. We're licensed to do that kind of work, to provide that kind of advice, and then as a CFO as well. Whereas entrepreneurship is very free form. There are many, many different ways that you can achieve what it is that you set out to achieve. And that adjustment is very difficult, especially, I'm a little bit older than I look. I've been working for almost 20 years. So that adjustment is quite difficult to make, but certainly made easier by being surrounded by a community of like-minded people who may have gone through this journey before and able to offer advice, help, and tips along the way. That gets me there as well. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this community.
Also, high-achieving people. You find this in startup communities, but this knowing that person just achieved this particular thing makes you lean in and go, okay, I need to keep up with that, or how did you do that? It's nice to have that motivation as well.
Definitely. Look, without sort of sugarcoating it, there are definitely good days and bad days on this kind of journey, as there are in it's not like being a CFO is a walk in the park either. But I suppose the difference is in most professions, you are solving the same problem over and over. Okay. As a CFO, sure, I'm responsible for very many problems, but I've probably solved them before. As a stock market analyst, also the same. The way that valuation is done, the theory behind valuation is the same for stocks in general. But as an entrepreneur, quite often you're solving problems that you've never come across before. How do you turn a Figma flow diagram into a prototype development project? These things, for someone that hasn't done it before, that's quite a difficult or daunting thing. But being in this community, I can look around and see many, many other people who have not only come to this challenge, but overcome it. And so seeing that is an inspiration, but knowing that I can reach out to them and say, well, can you let me know how you overcame this? That's also very encouraging.
Okay, that's again, it's a wonderful place here, but for all the people that are watching down the camera, what can they do to help with the next stage of FlavourIQ?
So please jump on the website, FlavourIQ.com, do the quiz, get matched to a coffee, let us know what you think. We're also looking for more partners, either coffee roasters as well as winemakers who want to be a part of our AI flavor matching platform. And our next big step would be to expand globally to match the global consumer flavor palette to Australian products. And I'm willing to bet that it's going to be quite different to the Australian consumer palette because of different nature and nurture aspects. So that's our next step. So if you are a coffee roaster, if you are a winemaker, or if you're a consumer interested in more delicious flavors, jump on our website and let us know what you think.
FlavourIQ.com.
FlavourIQ.com, and we spell FlavourIQ with a U because we put you in FlavourIQ. I'm also head of marketing, turns out.
You're going to be saying that a few times. You probably
No
already
doubt,
have, yeah.
no doubt.
Okay, one last question, we'll stop. How, if you could go back, would you tell yourself anything to do differently?
I think because my path to entrepreneurship is a little bit different, I have some advantages and I have some disadvantages. I think my advantages mainly come from having lots of experience in commercialization, understanding how investors think and things like this. But the disadvantage comes from having been a part of a rigid structure, having set ways of thinking and really adjusting that and understanding that there is sort of no team for me to fall back on. There is only myself. There is sort of no one for me to look to because, well, this is my company, this is my mission. And I think there is an inherent question of drive because only as an entrepreneur does all the drive come from yourself. Even as a CFO, if you don't feel like doing your job today, the CEO will ask you, have you done your work today? Something along those lines. So I think that was probably the biggest adjustment to make, is to understand that all of the motivation comes from yourself. But if you are passionate about your idea, if you believe in what you are doing, that should be enough.
Okay. I think we have drinks for this one. This is going to be a nice session after this. And I will say for anyone watching at home, you're going to miss out because we're also going to do the private Q&A now where we turn off the camera and go into the really kind of juicy questions from the audience. So I'm sorry everyone watching, but join us every Friday at 3:30 at UTS Startups at Central for the next one. And for now, we'll cut the stream. Join me in thanking Daniel from FlavourIQ.